Welcome to the AFFL Week 3 preview. I'm Michael Krogman, and with me is Brian Barker, who seems to be in some sort of distress.
I'm injured just like the rest of the NFL. This is my depiction of Week 2 in the NFL.
It was a rough week, too. It didn't work out for a lot of people, and interestingly, I think it brought most of the league back into play. We'll talk about that. Last week, my picks were a stunning 5-1. The only thing that let me down was Timmy by winning. You were 4-2. I'm sure you'll beat me one of these weeks. Don't worry about it.
Probably not.
That puts me at 8-4 in the year. You at 6-6 in the year. But hey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Let's get to the games.
Wait a minute.
Go
You're
ahead.
telling me that we're not going to start with the big news that you have that Gary thinks that I'm in on?
We're going to save that for the end.
All right.
You don't give away the big thing right at the beginning, then people will tune out.
All right.
Right?
I guess not. Tease it.
But let's talk about another big thing that happened last night. James Robinson, 27.9 points. Brian Barker, if you will indulge me for a second, I'd like you to read the email that I sent to you around 2 or 3 p.m. yesterday.
Well, I can't read it word for word because I erased it. But I know that it said that you were picking yourself to win this week and that Mr. Robinson would score 22 points.
How interesting. How interesting. Now, I've really been back and forth on this week. On Wednesday, I was ready to spend 45 minutes on this topic. Then as the week went on, I matured, and I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes on it. But here's my point. I was assuming I wasn't going to compete this year, and so I was ready to trade a bunch of guys, right? I didn't get any trade offers because I don't have anybody good. Here's the problem with this league. I say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Everybody in this league looks at past results, which doesn't do you any good when you trade for a player that you play from that point on. I know none of you have heard of James Robinson, okay? But what you see is the guy is one of the first undrafted rookies to ever have like 200 yards in his first 2 games. And he's playing the Dolphins. And he's 75 cents. And the whole league needs running backs. And I don't get one offer. Darrell Henderson, on a Rams team that's 2-0 with a high-flying offense, he puts up a ton of yards and a touchdown last week. He's 75 cents. No offers. Meanwhile, if your brother put up Austin Eckler for trade, he'd get a first-rounder tomorrow, even though we've already seen how Joshua Kelly's getting the goal line carries, and Eckler's super high touchdown rate from last season will not be repeated, and he's going downhill. Listen carefully, everybody. I had Raheem Mostert for 3 years. I had Chris Carson for 3 years. I had Mark Ingram before he broke out. And I've offered all these young guys, and I hear all the time, he sucks, or I don't know anything about this player. And I'm always on these backs early. And if you would give up a first or a second for them, you could have them and sign them under contract instead of fighting to draft them the year after they leave my team. Okay? Just trust me. But now, Brian Barker, it's too late because I'm going to win this week. And I'm going to go to 1-2. And I'm going to be right in the middle of this thing, and I'm going to make a run. Because Mike Davis is going to have a nice game filling in. He's available for trade. James Robinson, I'm going to sign him to a contract. I'm keeping him next year. Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers is out. And by the way, when Cam Akers played in week 1, didn't look great. They've been talking about Henderson's athleticism for 2 years now. McLaurin. Nobody wanted Terry McLaurin. He went off last week. Allen Robinson is due. He's getting tons of targets still. Atlanta's terrible.
Wait a second. I thought you were going to trade Allen Robinson. What happened to that?
Because now I think I'm going to win.
Oh, now you're going all in.
That's it.
Your star player just got hurt for the year. He's gone. And now because James Robinson had one good Thursday night against the Dolphins, Michael Krogman is back in business. Look
That's
out,
right.
everybody.
That's exactly right. You're missing, again, Henderson, McLaurin. Again, I know the rest of this league can't understand how guys can be good if they don't have good past stats. I understand you guys can't see into the future. I get it.
So you expect somebody to give you a first or a second round for James Robinson?
He's a starting running back. He costs 75 cents. He has 55 fantasy points. And listen, you know who else was like an undrafted rookie free agent that nobody had ever heard of before he started putting up some games? David Johnson. You know who else? Raheem Mostert. I mean, you saw him last night. He pounded that into the end zone 2 times.
I did not see him last night. I slept through that game.
Well, he had some. Well, first of all, next week is Broncos Jets, so don't complain about Thursday Night Football last night.
I mean, did they just pick the worst game of the week and put it on Thursday Night Football?
Basically, listen, he put his head down. He has scored 2 touchdowns this season on carries from the 10-yard line, dodging 4 or 5 guys, and he can put his head down and get up in there. And Chris Thompson doesn't get on the field that much on third down because they'll throw to Robinson. Look at this, 83 receiving yards. He had 12 receptions. I mean, what more do you people want?
I mean, that's a lot of points, especially when the team only scores 13. That's a lot of points.
Right. Anyways, I don't love Rodgers this week with Devontae out, even though he's looked incredible. New Orleans has a pretty good defense, and he does struggle with Devontae out. Taylor, I love against the Jets, no doubt. Evans, good. Love DK Metcalf. I don't love Juju because Deontay is the number 1 guy. And Kittle is hurt. He's out this week. It's not official, but, I mean, what's he going to do, put in David Johnson against the Steelers?
Yep, he's going to have to.
He's going to put in T. Irvin? Do you have any guess on what the T stands for?
Taludius.
Tyler.
That's weak.
That was a little boring.
What a letdown.
So let me tell you something. I'm going to beat Abe Froman, and that's a fact. And I'm going to be 1-2. And I don't want to give away my picks now, but I have 6 teams after this week going to 1-2. So I'm right in the mix.
Just for fun, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that Rodgers goes off, Taylor goes off, Evans and Metcalf score enough, and you lose like 105 to 101.
Well, I don't think that's very fun at all, number one.
I think it's great.
But I wrote it down, so you're going to have to live with it.
I live with it.
The Night Boys, 2-0 and on their way to 3-0. How much time do you want to spend on this game?
That Mike Barker is good at fantasy football.
Myers loses McCaffrey, and that's just, I mean, if you lose the number 1 overall pick, it's devastating. There's no doubt about it.
Heartbreaking.
I lost the number 2 overall pick in Saquon. It kind of hurts.
Heartbreaking.
But Connor looked surprisingly good last week. Brady, I don't know. Still don't know. Emmanuel Sanders, I thought he was going to be the fill-in, but Breeze didn't even look his way. And by the way, Breeze has like dead arm or something. There's nothing going on there.
He does not look good.
Lazard, I don't like it. But what I love how your brother has finally broken the seal on somebody just putting a whole team's backfield in. Just fuck it. I'll take the guy between the 20s and I'll take the goal line guy. I love it.
He loves it. He'll take whichever guy scores the touchdowns. He's got them. Either one.
Old strategy. Lockett and Hopkins both going off. I love it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Your brother's going 3-0. Who's your?
Sure is.
All right. We're aligned. Myers is just absolutely devastated. And you'll be surprised to know that he did not offer me a trade for Mike Davis, even though I said Mike Davis would be cheap. I guess my guess is that Bry lost his password for the Richard Myers email.
That's quite possible. Once McCaffrey got hurt, he was just like, screw it. I'm not even going to look at that team anymore.
All right. No matter who wins this matchup, we all lose. Chris and Scott. I love Cam is looking good, and as somebody pointed out this week, Belichick is basically running the single wing offense inside the 5. Love it.
Yep.
Zeke, Seattle defense isn't as great as it used to be. Okay, I love it. Gordon, not with Driscoll in. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that good.
Julio. So Chris has severe cap trouble. We know that, right? And Julio's like $1.90. So I was like, what's Julio cost? He got back to me, Allen Robinson and James Robinson.
Whew. That is steep.
Needless to say, I turned it down.
He does not overinflate the value of his players whatsoever, I assure you.
CeeDee Lamb actually might be on his way to the number 1 receiver in Dallas, the way he's going right now.
Unfortunately, he's been getting the ball a lot more than Gallup.
And Herbert, who's playing this week, seems to like Keenan Allen a lot, and Carolina's defense is horrible, so I like this one. But on the other side, you got Mahomes, but it's at Baltimore, and it's against that Baltimore defense. That's
not great.
They played last year. What did he do last year when they played?
I think they won.
Did he light it up? I don't think I can get to last year's game logs.
I mean, I'm sure he did all right.
You know what? McKinnon, the Giants are terrible, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Jeff Wilson or some guy we never heard of has more carries than McKinnon this week. Deontay Johnson, I do like, although he's got to hold the ball a little bit stronger. Thielen, Minnesota's not in good shape.
Wow, they look terrible.
Oh, man. They just have I mean, I don't know what they're even doing back there.
I really don't.
Hollywood, I like, but I mean, Kansas City, they like between Matthew and they got some guys that can kind of maybe take him out. Carson Wentz looks terrible too. Although
he's all banged up. Christian's gonna win this game. We don't need to spend that much time on it. It's pretty boring.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement there. By the way, how's this episode going? Is it better than last week? I got some fan feedback on last week's episode. Watching it during the football game, I thought was an interesting concept. I don't think it worked out in practice.
I mean, I heard somebody say cringe. I mean, was it really that bad?
It was pretty bad. Let's see if we can pick it up this week. We're light on the jokes. Where are the jokes? I mean, you
just look at Scott's team. That's not funny enough for anybody.
Okay, let me point out again that Tim, for 3 weeks in a row, is not starting his number 5 overall pick, Dak Prescott.
Now that's funny. You want jokes.
Why? Let me also point out that he still has this Rohrwasser on the roster, even though the Patriots don't.
Well, I mean, somebody might pick him up.
And by the way, it's not that like this is a cap thing because he's an extra player. He doesn't need him, period.
He does not. Nor does he need Dak Prescott.
What is he doing?
He's going to lose this week. I know that.
Well, he's got a lot going in the Bills-Rams game. He's got Allen. He's got Diggs. He's got Woods. He's got Tyler Bass. I think it's Tyler Bass. Terry Bass. He's playing a tight end. But hang on. You got Matt Ryan outdoors against a decent defense.
He'll be fine.
Chubb, Washington has a decent defense.
He'll be fine.
This, by the way, okay, let me talk about this for a second. This is a horrendous line. I'm absolutely betting Washington this week. And let me point something out about week 3, because this applies to our picks pool too. There are going into last night, there were 11 teams that were 0-2. Miami won, so now there's 10. Philly and Cincy play each other, so that takes 2 off. So there are 8 0-2 teams that are playing teams that have a win so far this season, right? Do you think there will be 9 0-3 teams after week 3?
I cannot say that I would think that would happen.
Seems pretty unlikely, right?
Right.
How many do you think there will be? 4?
4 or 5, maybe.
So that means 4 or 5 0-2 teams are going to upset favorites this week, which means for bets, for picks, and for fantasy, I'm predicting week 3 to be an absolute bloodbath.
All right.
So I don't like Chubb.
He doesn't like you either.
Drake is losing all the carries and touchdowns to Kyler.
He's going to go off this week.
I like how Cam is using Edelman, although he is going to get him killed at some point. I understand now why Carolina always drafted 220-pound, 6'5" receivers. It's because Cam gets his guys killed.
If he dies, he dies.
And I don't love Gallup. I tell you what.
Gallup's got to go off one of these weeks, too.
I know what you're going to say. I'm picking Tim.
I'm going to win.
In fact, well, I want to say I did want to say it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think that's the case. You got the Ravens D on Monday. He's got Mark Andrews. I think
94-87, I win.
no.
Yes.
Oh.
I've been to the future. I saw it. I'm coming back to tell you what was going to happen.
Tim is going to beat you 82-77.
All right.
That's marked. That's booked.
That's a wrong answer for you.
Here's some points. Here's an electric game. Gary Albert, Bry Williams. But here's the thing.
Anybody stop Gary from being the high of the week 3 weeks in a row?
I don't love Deshaun against the Steelers. Jacobs is kind of dinged up. And if Waller is out, by the way, I don't know where the Raider offense goes. Like, I would assume the Patriots just key on Jacobs. Cook, I mean, Tennessee has a good defense and Minnesota's a mess. Although, again, here's an 0-2 team. He's chasing the points with Robbie Anderson. I don't like that. T.Y. has not gotten going so far. But he doesn't have anybody in the bench. Like,
it's going to be another blowout. Gary's going to score like 130 points again. And
Bry's not that good.
neither one of his teams are that good.
Here's the thing. Again, we need to start thinking about how Gary is going to blow the title game, right? Or the playoffs. Because it's going to happen. Is it because Jones, Henry, and Kamara all got hurt at the same time?
Possible.
Something's going to happen. Gary's not just going to cruise, but we are both picking him this week. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Brad. So, hey, look.
No question.
Let's go back through the pitch real quick. Right off the bat, we got 1 and 2, 1 and 2. That's 2. That's
Say you.
That's 4. That's 5. That's 6. There are 6 1 and 2 teams. And by the way, we can jump ahead. McCamey's going to be 0 and 3. So the league is up for grabs right now. We just have to wait for Gary to fall on his face. Now, speaking of Gary, I think we can all agree we've known Gary for a long time. One of our favorite things about him is he is ready to believe a conspiracy theory at any moment. Would you agree?
I mean, I've known him a long time. I don't know him that well. I'll have to take your word for it.
I have seen Gary dive headfirst into so many conspiracy theories over the year and believe them absolutely.
Such as?
There was the time that for FBLA, we went to Washington, D.C. because we won our region or whatever. And Gary brought one of the things, so it was me, Gary, Brian Williams, and John Trant, maybe? One of the things that Gary packed besides clothes was like a 3-liter plastic jug of Hawaiian Punch. And he was positive. So we loaded all of our baggage onto, the bellhop cart, the thing with the brass bars going over it.
Uh-huh.
And his Hawaiian Punch disappeared. And he was convinced that the bellhop stole his Hawaiian Punch. He wouldn't let it go for the entire week. That's fine. There have been others over the year. But this week, I found out about Gary's latest conspiracy theory. He thinks that Larry has left the league and I am running Larry's team.
Interesting.
And as you alluded to in the beginning, he emailed you to ask if you were in on it.
Yes, he said, "Are you part of this ruse with Krogman?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he said, "Well, I'm going to wait and see your acting ability on the preview to decide whether I believe you or not." So while I've been known to do some acting in my day, I had no idea that this was his conspiracy or that this was going on, if it's going on. Of course, I don't put it past you. One bit whatsoever.
Now, in Gary's defense, I'll raise his defense. I'll play both sides. Larry has been threatening to quit the league for years.
He has.
He did draft Edwards, Hilaire, and Sanders, which I noted in the season preview. I said were the picks he should make there.
You loved those picks, yes.
And I also one time faked being another person in the league.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So the genesis this week was Gary sent a trade offer over to Larry. It was Aaron Jones for Edwards Hilaire. And I don't know if there were other pieces involved, but that was the meat of the deal. And Larry was like, I don't know. I haven't even looked at the contracts. I hopped on. I had my laptop open at the time anyways. I looked. I was like, hey, Jones is like $1.56, so I would not take that deal. Why pay extra for two players who are probably equivalent over the next 3 years, right?
Correct.
So trade didn't get off the ground, but Gary emailed me a couple days later, and he's like, what did you think of my offer, of this offer that I sent? And I wrote back, I told Larry to turn it down. And that little sentence is all it took to light the fire. And all of a sudden it went to, Gary was accusing me of, first he accused me of running Larry's team. And I said, I can't wait to talk about this on the preview. And he said, no, you can't do that. It'll ruin the league if everybody realizes one person is running two teams. And then he said, I should have realized this back in January when you planted the seed for this. And I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Wait a minute. Brian Williams has been running two teams for years.
Right. So, first of all, what's the problem with that? I don't know what I did in January that Gary thought was planting the seed for something.
I have no idea what that's about.
And then he started looking through the transactions, and in big, bold, highlighted letters, what jumped out to him was the Tyreek Hill trade that I made to Larry before the season started, after the Mahomes deal, which, by the way, I was losing Tyreek to the franchise anyways. So that's Gary's latest conspiracy theory, that I'm running Larry's team.
I'd like to also put out the conspiracy that Gary is running McCamey's team, so that trade happened from Devontae Adams for a second round to Christian, and then somehow Christian sent Adams over to Gary. I don't know. It's all silly.
Have you heard of Occam's razor?
I've heard of it.
It would you like to explain it, or do you want me to?
All things being considered, the simplest answer is usually the correct one.
So in that case, I'm going to say it's McCamey doesn't know what he's doing.
All right. I'll go along with that. You've convinced me.
So, Larry, listen, this game might look close for a while, and then Monday night, Lamar, Clyde, Tyreek. One thing I'm going to do is get Fuller out. Excuse me. One thing Larry should do, I misspoke. One thing Larry should do, Larry Schucht, who's a real person, Larry should take out Will Fuller and put in all right, leave in Fuller, but I don't think he's going to get much out of him. But
now that you mention it, I'm not sure I've ever met this Larry person.
Well, I mean,
Gary might have a point.
That's not him.
I mean, Larry was at the draft. He was on the Zoom meeting, although you weren't at the draft.
Huh. Isn't that weird how that worked out?
Maybe that's part of the ruse, that you wanted Larry to get his face there while you were like on the other side of the computer.
We can say it. Anyways, Gurley. Oh, so I emailed McCamey of what Mixon. Guess what Joe Mixon costs? 3
first rounds in a row.
He wanted 2 players and a pick, and one of the players was Joe Burrow. Waller's been dinged up. Which, by the way, let me pivot to this. Another thing that kind of bothers me about the league. Oh, Waller's dinged up. McCamey is screwed because he doesn't have anything going in here.
Yeah, I don't know if Waller's going to play. Everybody's dinged up. even I'm dinged up.
So, listen, I probably go too far about asking for trades because I'm always trying to see what everybody's thinking about players, right? Not one person in this league has had the foresight to email me and say, hey, I know you love Saquon. You've always talked about Saquon being your franchise player. But now you have Burrow. And Saquon's been hurt 2 years in a row, 2 out of his first 3 years. Maybe the train doesn't leave the station on Saquon. Is he available? What would it take? Nobody even asked. And by the way, I could be, after seeing that injury and thinking my season's going down the drain and seeing Burrow and thinking about having a QB like that for 90 cents for a long time, I could be, talked into a rash decision. But nobody,
I don't think anybody would have thought that you were going to trade.
But that's my point. That's my point. You never know. You never know if you don't ask. And
That's true.
I don't think people in this league have the vision. I think they want to trade and draft and start off of past stats and not where the future's going. Anyways, in the near future, Larry's going to win this game. Do you agree?
Agreed.
So McCamey's 0-3. That's not too good.
So you had you winning, right, and going to 1-2.
That's right.
And now your other team will be 2-1.
Well, listen, I have some pieces that I can send over to my other team and really, really stock things up pretty nicely. So I'm not too worried about it.
You can shuffle them back and forth all year.
It's not a big deal at all. In fact, I could actually, on my other team, I could use Tyreek this week. I might pull something off here. Gary Albert, ladies and gentlemen. He was, and by the way, it wasn't jokey.
Hi, Gary.
When I said I'm going to talk about this on the league, he genuinely was like, no, don't. It'll cause major problems.
But he knew you were going to talk about it because he emailed me and said, I'll wait and see how your acting goes.
Oh, the part I forgot to tell you, when he emailed you and you emailed me, I texted him right away. And we're like, why are you dragging innocent people into this?
Now because I'm doing this with you, now I have to be the bad guy as well. I'm trying to be the fun, nice guy, the yin to your yang, and now I'm getting dragged down with you.
I thought this was going to kind of be a boring season. We were going to go through it and happy that we had anything to do during COVID period. And it took 3 weeks for me to hear one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard about.
Well, now it'll be something fun to talk about all year long.
Okay.
You know what? I haven't heard anything from Larry since the season started, since the draft. Haven't seen him, haven't heard from him.
Well, look, hold on.
I'm going to push this conspiracy forward all year long.
Well, hold on. Let me just go in and
And Larry's going to do it too by not saying anything for the rest of the year.
Let me just click here and sign into my Larry account. And oh no, I lost my screen share right as
Damn it.
Oh, well, maybe next week I'll be able to show that.
There's always next week.
Here's my picks. I'm picking me. I'm picking your brother. I'm picking Chris, Tim, Gary, and Larry. You're different on Semi. You're picking Semi over me, and you're picking yourself over Tim. So I'm looking at 6-0. You're looking at 4-2, and I'll be pulling away in the picks.
Good luck with that.
Again, let me say it right now. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. There are going to be at least 4 or 5 0-2 teams that win outright and really mess things up this week. There'll be a lot of surprises.
Give me 2 before we leave that I should definitely bet on.
Washington
+7.
and Miami. Can you get your Miami bet in still?
No, that's not fair.
Actually, hold on. Let me do a quick thing here. Let me go back to the screen. Let's see. Gonna move this here. Let's take a quick look.
How about
If we're talking just bets, now there's gonna be an underdog teaser I like this week. I'm gonna move some points. And by the way, if you're wondering, I am up big so far this season. I'm up I've already turned 100 into 200. I like teasing the Bengals up to 10.5.
I would take that. The Eagles don't look good.
I'm staying away from this. I love this, and if I tease this to 14.5, I'm all over it. I honestly think I might take that Washington to win outright. I think everybody's on Cleveland because they won last week in prime time.
Eh,
I'll say this. I love the Patriots this week because the Raiders, they did look good, but Monday Night Football, emotional win at home, traveling on a short week, and it's a West Coast team playing in the early spot. Love the Patriots here.
and Waller might not play.
Yep. I'm staying away from this. Staying away from this. I think the Titans are way better than the Vikings, but this is a classic, like a team looked absolutely terrible for 2 weeks in a row, and then they win. I would tease this down. I think the Jets are dead.
They're not winning.
And
Lions are 0-2.
I like the Packers. I would tease the Packers up to 9. So you tease the Packers up to 9. It's just I don't have to sign in. Let's just show it right here.
Yeah, but you were saying that 4 or 5 0-2 teams are going to win. I don't hear that out of you.
All right, hold on. Let me go back.
I don't see it either.
Well, hold on. Where are the records? I got to go back to the records. I'm going to call Minnesota wins.
That's a reach.
You don't have the records on here. Well, these are
They're
two.
both
These are
0-2.
both 0-2. I mean, don't be surprised if the Giants win.
Yeah, they could. 49ers are banged up.
Little's out. They're banged up. Mullen, again. And, by the way, the Niners played the Jets last week and then stayed east, and that can be kind of weird sometimes. Washington, that's a win.
No,
Hey, you know what? I hate to say it. Don't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then Atlanta's 0-2. Don't be surprised here.
Somehow. How did they let that onside kick against Dallas? I mean, they don't have to wait for the ball to go 10 yards. That was the worst thing I've seen in a long time.
And look, Detroit's another team. They start off terrible every year. Everybody writes them off, and then you finish the season, they're like 6-10 or 7-9. I mean, they win games somehow. I mean, it does happen. What can I tell you? But if you want a teaser, I'm taking the Packers up to 9. I'm taking Washington up to 14. And I'm taking the Bengals up to 10. I love it. I'm all about it.
You heard it here first, kids. Get your money down.
What's that?
I said you heard it here first, kids. Get your money down.
Hey, I mean, these casinos, they're giving that money away.
They are. They want you to take it.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
They're begging you to take their money.
I think they're helping us all out for COVID this year.
They're givers.
It's a stimulus program. For Brian Barker.
Bye.
I'm Larry Shuck. Mike Rodman. And this has been the AFFL Weekly Review.